Hey guys, it's Maple, and I thought for today it would be nice to do just a little face painting session with you. So I've got some art supplies, and I've also got some measuring supplies because I'm planning on doing an intricate design, so I might have to measure some things. But we're going to start by getting some paint, which I have this big budget pack of paint. So I'll pick out a few colors for you. I was thinking, because I have some, here I'll show you. I have some metallic paint. So I have a gray, but then I also have silver. So I might do metallic paint. I even have a metallic purple and a metallic blue. There's also a gold, but I don't think it looks that good. I think the copper looks a lot better, which, especially on skin tone, I feel like copper would look better, but okay, let me just empty these here. Okay, and I'm just gonna get started with one of my bigger brushes, just to get a nice little backdrop for everything. In case you are curious, I do actually paint sometimes, like paintings. I'm not that good. I just do it for fun, mostly. But my parents, being the supportive parents that they are, they like to hang all my paintings around the house. So I think there's like 7 or 8 paintings of mine hanging around the house, even though they're like small, like that big. So I think they look kind of weird on walls. I have a few bigger pieces in my room as well, so I've got a lot of art hanging around. I even did last year a live stream where I painted a painting that I think turned out pretty good. In the middle, I was a bit worried that it wasn't going to turn out well. I'm the kind of painter where usually I have a plan, but sometimes it doesn't work out, so I just end up painting over the first thing with a slightly modified painting. And that way I can just keep redoing it and redoing it. And I was afraid of having to do that in the live stream, but I didn't have to do too much. Okay, let's get a couple more colors. You'll have to say if you like this sound. I like the running my thumb on the, what would you even call this? Like the serrated lid, bumpy lid. swoops with my palette knife. I'm not the greatest with my palette knife. I love the idea of it, and I love what professional artists can do with a palette knife. But I've never actually learned how to paint properly or like different techniques, which I know I could very easily just watch a YouTube video, but I like to just kind of go at it myself and see what I can do. I should probably do it one of these days though. Okay. Just a little. Good. Okay, let's make sure everything's up to code so far. It's gonna be 20 today. And that's 25, 24. Okay, that's good. Okay. Well then, let's do a little bit of detail work with the fan brush. Now this one you kind of want to stipple on. You don't really want to, I mean, I guess depending on what you're doing, you might sweep it, but I usually use this for like tree leaves, so you want to like tap, 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 so that they look really random. That's the thing about art, is you have to do extra techniques to make stuff look a little bit random. At least if you're doing like a more natural piece, like a landscape or animals. If you're doing like a geometric design, obviously you want to be like perfect. There we go. But it's really true how as humans we naturally want to make patterns. And so a lot of the times we make stuff that looks too perfect. Like, for example, tree leaves, you wouldn't have like 1 and then 2 and then 4 to make it round. You would have just random leaves all over the place. I don't know if what I said just makes sense, but it made sense in my head. Okay, I'm just going to do a little bit of detail work, but then I'm going to go back to the bigger ones. This is my teeny tiny brush, which is already starting to get a bit frayed, but it comes with a little tip to protect it because it's so small. There we go. I actually kind of wish I had an even smaller brush. Because one thing I've gotten into recently is painting teeny tiny, I think they're 2" by 2" squares. But don't quote me on that. I'm not actually 100% sure. But yeah, these teeny tiny little portraits. Because I think they make really nice little gifts for friends. Like for example, a friend's mom, well, my best friend's mom, really likes elephants. So I painted her a teeny, tiny, tiny 2-inch by 2-inch elephant. That turned out pretty cool, actually. Again, halfway through, I was like, this isn't a good painting. And then I just kept adding layers, and I was like, oh, okay, it's good now. Another one I had a Secret Santa. This was years ago at work. And I knew that the girl I had, her favorite painting was The Kiss by Klimt, I think. You can look it up. It's a really nice paint. I love that painting too. So what I did a 2-inch by 2-inch recreation of it. And yeah, she loved it. Although, when she first opened it, I guess she thought it was like a store-bought thing. Like, so for the first few minutes, she thought it was just a store-bought recreation of The Kiss. And then eventually my friend who knew that I painted it just mentioned offhand, like, oh yeah, it took her like a couple hours. And my friend from work was like, you painted this? And I was like, yeah, where do you think I'm gonna buy a 2-inch by 2-inch recreation of a painting? I mean, maybe they exist, but I don't know. How is that? It is looking good. Oh, someone had actually pointed out in one of my previous measuring videos that I did that, which is an actual painting technique, where you have a certain point on your pencil or paintbrush and you like use your eye at well, I think you're supposed to use it outstretched so it's the same distance, and then you can measure stuff like vaguely. So like if you're painting a human being, you can be like, okay, her arm comes down to here, and the next part of her arm comes down to here, and then you know vaguely what size to make everything. Not exactly, but vaguely. And someone asked, like, oh, you must be a painter because you know the real painting technique. And I was like, yes, I am a painter, but that's not why I know that. I actually only knew that because I just watched an anime with a friend about a guy who gets into painting, and they talked about that in one episode, and so I was like, oh, I can measure with my brush. It was actually a really good anime. There's only one season out, as far as I know. It's called Blue Period, I think. Yeah, that makes sense. But it was really good. I'm not actually that into anime myself, but a lot of my friends are, including my best friend. And so we'll watch stuff at his place all the time. And so we always have one anime going. Usually we have one anime, one serious TV show, and then one guilty pleasure show. So we had been watching a season of Love Island, because I love Love Island, in a guilty pleasure way. And right now we're doing Big Brother. And Spy Family, I've been really enjoying Spy Family. That's the anime we're watching right now. And then what's the serious movie, or the serious show name? can't I think of the name? Oh my goodness. Okay, this is gonna drive me crazy. But the main character is Leslie Knope's husband from Parks and Rec. I can't remember his name either. This is the bad part about filming, is I can't look stuff up on my phone like a normal person because my phone is recording me, so that's not the best. Now I'm going to be sitting here thinking about it. Basically, I'll explain the premise of the show. There's this company, and if you go to work for this company, then your personality gets split in two. The name for splitting the personality in two is the name of the show, but I can't remember what word they use. But then when you go to work, you switch to, like, not half of your brain, but imagine that your brain is split in two, and there's like you at work and you at home. And so when you go to work, you switch to your work person of yourself, and then when you go home, you switch back to your regular self. And so the you who lives in the real world basically doesn't ever go to work because you switch to the other part of your brain at the beginning of your workday and switch back to you at the end. So in that way, it's nice because, you know, you just show up to work and then you walk out 5 seconds later because you're done your workday. But then the person who's in work only ever lives at work. So it's really interesting. It's a bit creepy, but yeah, it's really well done. If I don't think of the name by the end of this, I'm gonna write it down in the comments. Okay, let me just measure this a little bit more. Just to make sure. It's gonna be okay. Okay. Now I'm going to use one of these stencils here. Maybe I'll do the little flower. How does that sound? Just look at the outline first. And then I can fill it in after. There we go. And more paint. One more. Fill that in. Perfect. Okay, let's fill in that flower that is just smack dab in the middle of your face. It looks so great. Okay. One thing I never tried with painting is oil paint. Because for those of you who don't know, you need a couple extra things for oil painting. Well, at least you need turpentine and oil paint, obviously. And I don't paint like too often, so I always wonder if it would be worth it to try oil painting, because I only paint like, let's say once a month, for example. So I don't know, that seems like a lot of money for not a lot of paintings. Also, oil paint dries a lot slower, so it takes a lot longer to paint, apparently, so I've heard. Since I'm just an acrylic kind of gal. Also watercolor, but I feel like watercolor is, I can kind of do it, not really with the acrylic, just by adding a lot of water, you know, to make it look like splotchy and stuff. But I do really like watercolor paintings. I think they're hard to do well, though. Like abstract watercolor is probably not easy, but easier since you can just add splotches. But I think it's hard to do a realistic one since, you know, the water's gonna run all over the place. Okay. Let's do one last check before we finish up here. 12. Okay, let's check in inches, just in case. For all you American people out there, gotta check in inches as well. Actually, that's a funny thing, since I'm Canadian, if you don't know, but for most things, we would use like meters, especially to measure things, like big distances. But then sometimes for smaller things, we use inches, just because we hear all your American movies and TV shows, and so we kind of get used to it. The biggest thing is that our weight and height, a lot of people use feet and inches and pounds. I don't actually know how tall I am in centimeters and my weight in kilograms, even though that's what we're supposed to use in Canada, just because everyone uses feet and inches. I don't know why, it's a bit weird. Okay. So for the details, I was just going to do some little dots around just to add some pizzazz. So I have this, it came with my art stuff. It's just a teeny tiny little, I assume it's for poking dots. I haven't actually looked it up, what this tool is supposed to be for. I've actually used it in a lot of role plays now, so I'm happy I got it, whatever it is. Like, for example, in a cranial nerve exam, they ask you, like, here's a pointy thing, here's a not as pointy thing. And so I like to use this as my not as pointy thing, because it is, well, you can't tell, but can tell it's not pointy. But it's a nice little tool to have. And I do use it to paint dots as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, just a couple more. Okay, and I think you are all done. Yeah, you're looking fabulous. I think the flower right in the middle is a good touch for you. And one thing before I go, today's video actually has a producer credit to Mark, one of my lovely, lovely, lovely patrons. One of his perks is to be a producer of one video per month, and he had messaged me that he loves it when I'm being myself, so I thought I would add it to this video where I'm just rambling about myself and my life and stuff like that. But his full producer credit will be in the description, and yeah, give him a thanks for producing this episode, and thank you from me, myself, Mark. I really, really appreciate you, and every one of you guys as well. But I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.